right, welcome back. This is Second Passover Part 3. I had a friend write to me, and he's going to be keeping Second Passover, and he's going to be doing it on May 1st. It actually starts May 30th at sundown. And I found out, after more diligent study, that I was incorrect on the timing of Second Passover. Well, it's correct from America's point of view. It goes by the sighting of the moon, and he's going by the sighting of the moon in Jerusalem, which is probably more correct. The moon was sighted here in the U.S. on the 16th of April, but it was not sighted in Jerusalem. So if we're trying to keep together with the state of Israel and Jerusalem over there, you probably want to shift your day forward one day to keep this second Passover if you intend to keep it. And Psalm writes that the moon is full on Passover, and correspondingly I looked up the moon from Jerusalem's point of view will not be full until April 30th at 3:30 p.m. So the night of April 30th, the evening, it would be full, but on the 29th it would not be over there, not quite, over there in Jerusalem. So I was glad that he sent me that letter and pointed that out. And I wanted to correct it for everybody out there so that you can decide. I don't know, if you were in California or New Mexico and you saw the sliver of the moon on the 16th, then for you, I guess the 14th day would be on the 29th at sundown. But if you're trying to keep it as you would from Jerusalem, which is probably a good idea, you may want to keep it on the 30th at sundown. What's going on? There was more I covered in this email back and forth with a friend of mine, and it spurred some good thought. So I first wanted to correct that date, make sure that people know that you may want to do it on May 1st, 30th at sundown. All right. The sighting of the moon, by the way, you can go out to Crescent Watch or a couple others, and they'll show you where these, where the sightings are, and people take pictures, and you can see it. If you didn't see it yourself, I don't think everybody has to see it. Obviously, you can't see it sometimes because of cloud cover, one thing or another. But it's good to be wise and see what everyone else has said. Psalm 81:3 is where we get the. I covered this in another one, so I won't cover it a lot, but in Psalm 81:3 it says that blow the horn or the ram's horn on the new moon and on the full moon on our festival day, and it's speaking of Passover. So Passover is on a full moon. Psalm 81 touches that. I covered it earlier. You can go back to some of the other sessions. Now, my friend's going to be doing a Seder meal, it sounds like, or he's talking about it, considering it. And I don't think that Yahushua, the Messiah, Mashiach, that he did a Seder meal. That's Babylonian. The Babylonian Jewish Seder meal violates the commandments in many ways. And this comes, if you do a little research out there online, you'll find that it comes from Babylon, the days of Babylon, and the rabbis that instituted this tradition way back there. And they were doing the same error at the time of Yahushua. First off, the things that the errors they do. They have a cut bone lamb shank roast. This violates Exodus 12:46. It says you shall not break a bone thereof. And they do. They have a cut bone lamb shank roast. And John 19 says not a bone of Yahushua or Yahusha was broken. So that's what this is fulfilling. And the Jews don't recognize him as the Messiah, generally speaking, unless you're talking about Messianic Jews. And they're still doing these Seder meals, which is strange because they're violating the law. Most Jews buy a lamb shank roast and carry it abroad out of the supermarket. They don't kill it themselves, most of them. And this is a violation of verse 46. And this is why the Messiah ate it in one house with his disciples. I'll read this in a minute here, that it tells you in 12:9, you have to roast it whole with the guts, with the pertinence thereof. And it says, don't carry it abroad out of the house. You'll notice that he did it in one house with his disciples. He didn't go down to a big Jewish temple hall or something. The Seder is a tradition that makes the law of none effect. Remember, he warns us of this in Matthew and other places. Yahushua, in the year that he was crucified or killed, he did a correct Passover the evening before the Jews, at least as I read it. You can read it yourself, and I'm no prophet, but here it says they killed the Passover lamb, and what day by law do they kill the Passover? Well, the 14th. Well, what do the Jews do when theirs on? The 15th. That's sundown. We see that they eat it in the evening, not day. That's what the Messiah did. Remember, he ate it in the evening with his apostles. And the Jews have been in error since Babylon. So since the days of Babylon, and they were in error at the time of Yahushua. Because while he was dying on the stake or cross, the Jews were keeping their Seder meals, not Passover. They're keeping Seder meals. And they're doing it the evening of the 15th day, the high Sabbath that's coming up. That when, as he died that evening, that began the high Sabbath of the first day of unleavened bread. See John 19. He ate the Passover lamb the night before, like you're supposed to, on the 14th day, just like they did in the book of Exodus, as it's written about. Otherwise, the blood wouldn't be there on the night of the 14th, would it? When the death angel passed over on the night of the 14th, the blood wouldn't be there. And I noticed, I was confused on this, and I covered this previously, so I won't spend a lot of time on it, but I was confused on this before, that I was doing it during the day as the Jews do. You know, like between the evenings means during the day. Between the evenings does not mean during the day, it means at twilight. That means between the time, that's where we get the word twilight, between. Between the time that the sun goes down and the time that it's black. Read a definition on twilight out there. Go look that up and you'll figure out what they're talking about. Well, Mark 14:12 clears this up. The first day of unleavened bread, he's talking about the 14th day, talking about Passover. When they killed the Passover, when did they kill the Passover? The 14th day. They're not talking about the first day of unleavened bread being the high Sabbath of the 15th. Going on here, Mark 14:12. His disciples said unto him, Where will you that we go and prepare that you may eat the Passover? So they're going to kill the Passover lamb, and they're going to eat the Passover. And that's what they did that night. And he goes on and explains it to them. And down in verse 14:16 of Mark, they made ready the Passover, and in the evening he comes with the 12. So when did he eat the Passover? In the evening. And this is the day before he dies. You know, the night before. He dies on Passover, but it's the night before. Because that night, remember, he goes out to the Garden of Gethsemane, they catch him, and they put him on the sham trial, the fake trial, kind of like the trials here in the States a lot, and then they crucify him. Going on, Exodus 12:42, it's a night to be much observed, so this is a night to be much observed, not a day. Jumping down to 12:46 of Exodus, in one house shall it be eaten, shall not carry forth. That's what he did. He ate it in one house with his disciples. He didn't go down to some big party temple. That's what they do here today. They all go to a big meeting hall. You should not carry forth the flesh abroad. Well, you're obviously carrying it abroad from the supermarket or wherever. They're not killing it at the meeting hall where the Jews do it. I know I was invited to one this year at Beth Messiah congregation. It says, neither shall you break a bone thereof. You have to roast it whole. They have a cut lamb shank roast. When a stranger shall sojourn with you, keep the Passover, let all of his males be circumcised. Now this is, the first one's going against the Jews. This one's going against the Pauline, you don't have to be circumcised, Acts 15. Obviously, he's telling you a lie. When he tells you not to be circumcised, he tells you no uncircumcised person shall eat thereof. One law, to him that's homeborn and the stranger. So when Paul tells you in Acts 15, these Gentiles don't have to be, that's contrary to the law, and that means you're false. Going on, I don't know how you read it any different. Maybe you read it different. Anyway, we don't want to get stuck on that. Eat not of it raw, nor sodden it all with water. The Jews sodden it with water. They have a roasted lamb shank roast. And with the pertinence thereof, with the guts. You have to cook it with the guts. Don't worry, it cooks just fine. You just carve the meat off the back. You're not going to be keeping it because you burn up what remains. They don't burn up anything that remains that night either. They're violating so many of these by that tradition. Well, the Jews don't keep the law, and that's why this judgment's coming. In Amos 2:4, it says that for 3 transgressions of Judah and for 4 I will not turn away the punishment thereof. He's talking about the state of Israel over there, the Jews. Of course, there's even more Jews in New York. But going on, because they despised the law of Yahuwah and have not kept his commandments, and their lies cause them to error after the which their fathers have walked. This is what we're talking about right here. They're telling lies to people to do Seder meals and all this stuff, and people are focused on their traditions, and they're not keeping the commandment. They're not killing a lamb and roasting it whole and burning up the leftover and doing exactly what he tells them to do. The Messiah did. Going on, this whole Amos passage is really good. It tells you how they're going to get it. Israel's going to get it over there, the Jews, and we're going to get it. He says here, follow Moses and the prophets, not Jews, not Messianics, and not Christians. I wanted to point that out. Don't follow religion, don't follow tradition. Moses and the prophets. He tells them that. If they will not hear Moses and the prophets, neither will they be persuaded, though one rose from the dead. He tells that in that Lazarus and the rich man parable. All right, going on. The cedar, we know now, it took its shape from the rabbis in the Talmud. The Babylonian cedar meal. We go on some more with breaking a bone. You're supposed to roast it whole with the pertinence. Back to Amos 2:6. USA Israel is here. By the way, USA is Israel. And he says, for 3 transgressions of Israel, will not turn away the punishment thereof, because they sold the righteous for silver and the poor for a pair of shoes. Boy, they do this in America. I've never seen such a covetous people in all my life. They will do anything for $1. And it's bad. The sex sins here, they talk about that, laying themselves down on clothes together that are pledged. They drink the wine to condemn the house of their God. This is all about America and our sins and how we're going to be judged here. And going down through this, he says, I'm pressed unto you as a cart is pressed full of sheaves, because the people here don't keep these commands at all. I mean, we're up to legalizing all these abominations and everything. It's awful. Courageous and mighty. Here's what's going to happen. He that standeth as a bull, the swift of foot, shall not deliver himself, and neither shall he that rides on the horse deliver himself. He that is courageous among the mighty shall flee away naked in that day, says Yahuwah. So it's going to be so bad over here when our cities get nuked that most people won't be able to deliver themselves. I was listening to a good talk here. I guess we'll have to cover this I'll see if we can squeeze it in. Dr. Pigeon pointed out in this YouTube session, in this roundtable, that the trees of Carmel have withered. In Amos 1, it talks about that. That Carmel shall wither. In Amos 1:3, talks about the transgressions of Damascus and how it's going to be punished. In Isaiah 17:1 through 3, Damascus is a ruinous heap and Ephraim, USA, is destroyed. Well, we're bombing Damascus over there. We're real close to this. Transgressions of Gaza are in 1:6. Well, Gaza's getting beat up over there and all that too for their transgressions. Verse 9, the transgressions of Tyrus. Now, I think this is talking about Great Britain. Pigeon thought it was talking about Lebanon. But at any rate, this is occurring as well. The transgressions of Edom. I've heard that Edom is Turkey, and I've heard that Edom is Saudi Arabia. But you can read about that. That's all coming to pass as we're speaking now. 3 transgressions of Ammon. Of course, that's Jordan over there, and we're piling up our military to go attack Damascus in Jordan. 3,500 troops, M1 Abrams tanks, all the rest of it. And the transgressions of Moab. The conclusion here is, and I thought this is fascinating, in Amos 5:3, it says that the city that went out by 1,000 shall leave with 100. So 90%. There's going to be a 90% kill in America. And this is what the Deagle report. I was reading an article recently on the Common Sense Show. We're out of time. I'll pick this up in another session. All right, welcome back. This is Second Passover Part 3. I had a friend write to me, and he's going to be keeping Second Passover.